Welcome to this new episode of Deep Dive. As Bank One celebrates its 15th anniversary, we are joined today by Mark Watkinson, the CEO, who has recently been appointed as the chairperson of the MBA. We will delve into the opportunities and challenges of local banking sector, as well as the prospects in the Sub-Saharan African market, where Bank One has a well-defined strategy. Mark, welcome. We are glad.
Thank you very much.
We are very glad to have you on this new episode of Deep Dive. You have recently been appointed as the chairperson of the Mauritius Bankers Association. What are your feelings on this new role?
Well, I'm obviously very honoured. It's a great honour to be chosen. I'm taking over from Bonnie, who was CEO of HSBC, who did a great job for the Mauritius Bankers Association. So I have big shoes to fill, per se. But as I say, I think it's an exciting time to take over as chair of the Mauritius Bankers Association. There's lots of change in the market. There's lots of opportunity. We're coming out of obviously a very difficult period with COVID. Mauritius was incredibly resilient during that period. But having just got out of COVID, we now move into the global economic challenges which have come up as a result of inflation and so on. But that aside, I think personally for myself, and I think for the banking industry in Mauritius, this remains a very exciting time. There are incredible opportunities, and I think Mauritius is well placed to take those opportunities, both actually within Mauritius itself, but also cross-border. Particularly Africa and Asia offer great opportunities.
How does your bank position itself in the local banking market?
We, Bank One, we take a number of different approaches, and it really depends on the business line. So, for example, our retail business, we call Personal Financial Services, is very active in the mortgage market, and they've done a really excellent job in that space. But also our retail market is focused on the SME, or the small, really the smaller businesses in Mauritius. How can we, help smaller businesses grow? Because at the end of the day, something like well over 80% of all employment in Mauritius is driven by the SME segment. So our retail business is very focused in that area. Our domestic corporate business really is looking at a combination of mid-size Mauritian companies, and again looking to see how we can support their growth with a variety of products. But also an important space within Mauritius, an increasingly important space, is the property sector. And we're very active in a space that we would call J4VEFA, which is really a sort of guarantee scheme to support construction projects in Mauritius. So those are important parts. Our private banking business is focused on managing people's wealth, particularly in Mauritius itself. But an increasingly important piece that we do in Mauritius, a critical part of our strategy in Bank One, is looking at the corridor between Mauritius and Sub-Saharan Africa. So increasingly what we're looking to do is to support Mauritian businesses who are looking to invest into Sub-Saharan Africa. And Bank One has shareholders with businesses in Sub-Saharan Africa, so Madagascar, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda. So we can directly assist Mauritian businesses going cross-border. But in addition to that, we're also actively looking to bring African businesses into Mauritius and encourage that investment in Mauritius, where they're looking to set up trading businesses and things like that. So it's a focus on the domestic market, but it's also a focus of trying to leverage the advantages that Mauritius has for outward investment into Africa, but also attracting inward investment back into Mauritius.
What are the challenges and opportunities facing the local banking sector given the current economic situation?
Obviously, one of the real issues in the in the market, but not just our market, but globally, is inflation, and that's a real challenge. And I think, the central bank, Bank of Mauritius, is trying to do a good job trying to push down inflation, but it's very difficult in Mauritius because inflation is not so much created within our economy, but we import inflation from across the world. And obviously that inflation was caused by the challenges with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, etc., food prices. So inflation remains a challenge. Across the region, there is a shortage of hard currency. And Mauritius has had its challenges during COVID, but I'm pleased to say that that is definitely getting better, and that's driven by our successful tourist sector, which is picking up rapidly, and that will bring earnings back into the country. And I would say those would be two of the key areas: inflation. And managing hard currency, but I would also see, as far as a challenge is concerned, it's if we want to use Mauritius as a platform to access other markets around the region, we need to continue with our investment in people skills, particularly in the financial services sector. Okay. And this is where the Mauritius Bankers Association can help alongside the Bank of Mauritius in sponsoring graduates and supporting the community to bring on good skills into the financial services sector. Now, as far as opportunities, we've touched on it a little earlier. I think there are significant opportunities for Mauritius, both on island and off island. Now, as far as on island is concerned, a lot of our tourists come from Europe, British, French, German, Italian. But also we have tourists from South Africa. But I think there's a growing opportunity and a growing market to develop an African proposition for our tourist sector. As wealth increases in the Sub-Saharan African area, there is an opportunity for Mauritius to position itself on that from that perspective. But I also think there's great opportunity, as we've discussed, for Mauritian businesses to invest into Africa, and we're seeing that now with some large deals taking place, be that in retail, be that in logistics. There's some really interesting opportunities, but I also think there's a great opportunity to bring some of the best African companies into Mauritius, either to list or to assist them with fundraising in the Mauritian capital markets. So I really think we're at an interesting time for Mauritius. We had challenges obviously around the change in the tax regime with respect to Mauritius and India. That did cause challenges to our business community. But one door closes and another opens. I believe there's much more we can do with India, but I also believe there's much more that we can do with Africa.
So you're quite optimistic for the future?
I am. We've been through a fairly brutal, tough period. Particularly COVID and in the last year. But my sense is we will be coming out of that, and the back end of 2023 and moving into 2024. I think there will be better days.
So which sectors are likely to experience significant growth, and how does Bank One position itself to seize these opportunities?
I think there are a couple of areas that I think over the next few years are likely to have really interesting growth. I think the tourist area has bounced back incredibly quickly, particularly the sort of 4- and 5-star hotel. I think there's probably more room for growth around the 3-star space, But I think the tourist sector is going to be very exciting. You know, one of the critical things for Mauritius is to keep developing its markets. We're strong in Europe, and we're strong in South Africa. What we've got to look at now is how do we develop new markets. I've mentioned a little bit earlier. I believe there's an African market that can be developed. And again, I think that provides really exciting opportunities for the tourist sector. The other sector I think that will really see rapid growth over the next couple of years is the real estate market, and this is particularly around developments where we're attracting foreigners to come into Mauritius and invest in Mauritius for everything that is wonderful about living on the island. I believe that is a space that will continue to show really positive growth. And the third area, my sense is it's that cross-border piece. Increasingly, I think people are going to look at Mauritius as providing a really attractive platform to serve other markets, particularly as we've mentioned before, Sub-Saharan Africa. I really think we're going to see a good pickup in growth because as Africa grows, and it's growing really rapidly, you look at the population. Sub-Saharan Africa's population is about 1.2 billion. By the middle of the century, it will be about 2 billion, and by the end of the century, 3 billion. So it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal growth. Comes with challenges, but also comes with opportunities. So I think the flow back and forth between Mauritius and Sub-Saharan Africa will present really significant opportunities for our management companies, for example, opening structures, setting up businesses. I think it's a really interesting employment opportunity for people. So these are three areas. Now, as far as Bank One is concerned, in the tourist space, we support the tourist space in multiple layers. Be that hotels themselves, be that people that work in hotels, albeit suppliers to hotels. So we work strongly there. And as far as real estate development and opportunities, we're one of the leading providers of, as I've mentioned, JFA structures, which is, as I say, a guarantee structure that supports development on the island. And on the third area, we're increasingly active, and it's becoming a real focus for us of that bridge to Africa. Bank One is looking to be a bridge to Africa, but a bridge goes two ways. And we're very excited about supporting Mauritian businesses looking to expand into Africa, but we're equally excited to bring African businesses to Mauritius. Now, it's interesting to note that from a technology side, Nigeria and Kenya have some of the most exciting high-tech companies in the world, not just Africa. How can we attract some of these businesses to Mauritius? And that's part of our role.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for sitting with us for this interesting conversation and for the insights about Bank One's projects.
Delighted to be here. Thank you very much indeed.